And we're back on the chosen baseball journey, big chapter 106 with Karim Garcia, former MLB player, slugger. I call him the Mexican hitting machine. I'm Jonathan A. Hacohen, author of the Bible 3.0, The Six Commandments of the Chosen Life, which, by the way, Karim is now available as an audiobook. So people are downloading it off of Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Indigo in Canada. So that's been really great. Not a baseball book, it's a lifestyle book on how people can center their body, mind, soul, and build life systems. So, all the things I did in my life, which I heavily advocate for the general population. Gotta ask you one thing before we start today's chapter. How popular is yoga in baseball circles and generally in sports, as far you know? A lot of athletes now active in yoga, not active in yoga, as far as you know.
Yes, they are. A lot of the baseball players, especially pitchers, do a lot of yoga because of the stretching, the good things they do for your body itself. The concentration, the relaxation. The because usually before the play, baseball players will do only weights, weights, weights. They never stretch. So a lot of problems came to that. And now with yoga and doing all the things that they ask the teams now tells you're gonna do it at least once a week, so which is good.
I gotta say, like I talk a lot about that in my book, but participating in yoga centered my mind, brought my life energy, my focus, my passion, and it got my body fit. It was a really great compliment with the gym. So for those of you that have never tried it, always thought about doing it, I gotta say, yoga does miracles. And a guy who needs a lot of yoga currently is the $700 million man. It's Shohei Ohtani, and I guarantee you he's a big yogi. You look at him, you tell the man does yoga. Karim. If you talk to somebody who's a non-baseball fan, a non-sports fan even, and you tell them this story, it's straight out of a Hollywood movie. So you have Shohei Ohtani with the Angels, has his interpreter, becomes one of his best friends. He's almost like an assistant to him, a personal assistant. And so when he goes to the Dodgers, the assistant comes along with him and is going to be an interpreter for him. He signs a $700 million deal. And then as they're playing opening day in Korea, it's starting to come out a bit of a scandal. So originally, the story from Otani's camp was that the interpreter had a gambling debt. Otani helped his friend out, paid off the debt for him, felt bad for him. Then quickly, Otani's camp retracted that story, saying, no, the interpreter stole money from Otani's account. Otani had no idea that $4.5 million went missing out of his account. And the interpreter took that money to pay off his gambling debts to a mobster, not an illegal betting thing. And the interpreter apparently has admitted guilt to this. And so the FBI is involved. Major League Baseball is involved. Hmm. So I was recently at a hockey game and I pulled, let's say, five people who all know sports. And I said to them, you're hearing these things coming out about Otani. They said, oh, how can you miss that? And I said to them, let me ask you, in your opinion, did the interpreter do it or what? Five out of five people came back to me and said, if I was a betting man, ha ha ha, I would bet that the interpreter is the fall guy. Somebody has to take the fall for this because it can't be Otani because Otani is the name of the Dodgers, the face of Major League Baseball, international sports, the modern day Babe Ruth, the $700 million man. He cannot be the one betting illegally on gambling. So I'm going to bet that he was aware of this. The guy took the bets for him, and he's going to take the fall because somebody's got to take the fall, and that's the way it's going down. When you heard all of this going down, Kareem, sitting here today, what do you make out of all this? Because this is messy.
It is horrible for baseball. It's horrible for the fans. It's horrible for everyone in the world, especially in the world of Otani, because a scandal like this is not it's not gonna go overnight and you're gonna forget about it. They're gonna be talking through the whole year about this problem. Otani himself started great. The first couple of games, he's doing what he's been paid for. Getting on base, getting hits, RBIs, whatever they ask him for. Outside of baseball, that's a different story. And the first person that came to mind is who else? Pete Rose. And the quote that he had the other day, it was unbelievable, straight up hilarious. It's like in the 70s and the 80s, if I would have had a translator, I would have skated, I would have skated free through this one.
He was sitting beside a person in a sports bar. Of course, he was sitting in a sports bar, probably finishing an autograph session in Vegas because he practically lives in Vegas. He was talking about the Otani situation, like you said. I had that next. You read my mind. We didn't confirm on this, but on X, the video plays, and he says, "Well, back in the 70s and 80s, I wish I had an interpreter. I'd be scot free. I'd be in the Hall of Fame right now." Let's be serious. I mean, this is on the level of Pete Rose. This is on the level of the Chicago Black Sox scandal of 1919, Shoeless Joe Jackson. If Ohtani was betting on sports, not even baseball, we're not even insinuating there was any kind of baseball betting, but he's betting an illegal betting with a known mobster. There's suspensions involved here. This time last year, we were focused on Japan winning the WBC, Ohtani striking out Mike Trout, going towards free agency. Then this year, going to Seoul, Korea, Ohtani being the $700 million man, the face of the Dodgers. This is exactly what baseball doesn't need after the steroid scandal, after everything else. This is just not a good look. I'm not saying that Ohtani's guilty, but what I'm saying is like this. Let's go conspiracy theory wise. If you're Shohei Ohtani, you probably are on an allowance of some sorts. You don't just put $700 million in your account. Not that he has the money yet, but you have people who manage your money financially. They give you bank accounts and they give you an allowance, let's say, and they're saying, this is the money you're getting. You do what you do. The rest of the money gets invested. Somebody is watching those accounts. There's somebody managing the money. It's not him going and doing himself more than likely. Half a million, half a million, half a million, half a million keeps escaping out of your account, 4.5 mil. That usually sets up flags. Now, I don't understand why you don't take that money, put it in an offshore account somewhere slowly, and the offshore account pays for the gambler, the mobster. Why would it come directly out of Otani's account? But what I'm saying is, I have a hard time believing that no matter, let's say right now with endorsements, he probably has $100 million sitting in the bank. 4.5 million goes missing out of your account in total. Somebody generally is finding that and asking about that. Because I assume also wasn't in one shot. Did that not raise any kind of suspicion for you?
Of course it is, but let me go back a little bit.
Okay,
I
please.
think you're doing a great insight of how to move the money without being detected. So whoever is listening, now you know how to do it. And the other thing is, when you get 11 transactions for $500,000 through a period of time, like you mentioned, someone had to be watching those transactions. It's not one or two for half a million. 11 of them to get 4.5 million. So I mean, let's be honest. He knew at some point or somehow what was going on. If he didn't report it on that moment, it's because he think that nothing was going to happen and it was okay. You can either help a friend because you have the money, or you were doing it yourself. Unfortunately, it's never going to be proved that he did it because the places were the bets were placed by his interpreter. So it's a fall guy. Yes, it is a fall guy. No matter what, he's going to be suspended for life because it says right there you cannot bet on sports while you are in the major leagues. So, and the rule say right there is for life. It's banned for life. Just like Pete Rose. So he's never going to be able to go back to a baseball stadium in the States, at least.
The interpreter is gone. I mean, there's no doubt about that. The only way is if the interpreter comes out and says, I was placing these bets for Ohtani. Ohtani directed me. Otherwise, it's the interpreter that's done the bets and came to Ohtani and got the money. If let's say he was the assistant and he was paying bills for Ohtani. You're my personal assistant. So here's my phone bill. Here's my gas bill. Here's my car lease payment. You're taking care of this stuff. He's probably not in charge of the bank account with the $100 million, I assume. I assume that there's max $1 million sitting in that account, and you're paying bills of 10,000, 5,000, 2,000, those kind of denominations. I assume that the personal assistant would not have access to $4.5 million to pay. What kind of bills are we paying here? I mean, are we going shopping on Rodeo Drive every day and spending $30,000, $40,000? Still, think about this. How much money you have to spend? You'd have to buy a Rolls Royce all the time. And at some point, the money managers are going to say, why did you buy a Rolls Royce every week? That doesn't make sense to me, unless you're Allen Iverson. So this is where I'm having difficulties with this. And if Otani comes to him and says, "Look, I'm going to take care of you for the rest of your life, you and your family for generations. We'll get the money over to you. You have to take the fall here because I'm the face of everything. You cannot." We will never know. It's if the two of them made their deal without cameras, without microphones, it's gonna, even if the interpreter comes back in 10 years and writes a book, unless he has a video recording of it or audio, we'll never know who told the truth out of it. And I don't know if people want to know. You and I were talking off camera, a little bit about it. The truth is, Major League Baseball wants it to go away. And in reality, I think that people will just get bored of the story if they can drag it long enough and move on to the next crisis, right? That's the hope.
Yes. I mean, Major League is hoping for that right now. I mean, the story is still kind of hot, for the next week or so. But all of a sudden, when the teams start, winning, the Dodgers start winning, all the rest of the guys, the people are just looking for to start making headline stories. Then all this is going to die down, and that's what Major League hopes. They're going to say, you know what? I mean, it was always the interpreter. Ohtani was, got free. They let it go, continue to play baseball because he makes a lot of millions for a lot of people. That's the face of baseball right now.
I'm going to tell you why this is not going to go away. Are you ready? Are you ready,
Mm-hmm.
Karim? Okay, because this is breaking in Toronto right now, and this is bad, 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 bad. So we've gone down the road. Once you open Pandora's box and you make the decision to go in, you are in. So you host the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. You put a team in Las Vegas for the NHL, the NFL, and soon to be Major League Baseball. You open up sports betting across the board, people sitting in games, making their bets, their parlays, and all this jazz, right? Well, there is a crisis brewing in Toronto right now because we have a Toronto Raptor by the name of Jontay Porter, who's going to be in big, big trouble. And talk is that he could be suspended for life. What did Mr. Jontay Porter do? The brother of Michael Porter Jr. Well, he has a two-way $415,000 contract, meaning that he gets into the minors, he ain't making very much. Well, when people are doing prop bets on NBA, when you're saying over under, they're going to shoot over, they're going to shoot under, they're going to have 3-pointers, da da da. You can bet on all that stuff. Well, usually on a typical NBA player in a given day, usually the prop bets around $1,000, $2,000 on a player max. On Mr. Jontay Porter, several times over, I believe, at least 3 different games, there were multiple betting accounts betting large amounts, upwards of 10,000 to 20,000 each, that he would be under on several games. These are the same games that he took himself out of the games, that he said he had an eye injury. He had other sorts of injuries and told the coaching staff, he pulled himself out of the game. Karim Garcia, this is very, very, very bad. Why? Because now all of a sudden it's one player. And how do you prove that? And let's say you are able to prove it because his entourage is around him and he tells them, I think I'm not going to be feeling so great today. I'm probably not going to get to make 5 3-pointers. I'm going to be under 5 points, hint, hint. And he doesn't place the bets, but his circle does, or people that know him, or he leaks it out enough. Very, very bad. So all of a sudden now he's gone. If he is gone or he does be found guilty of this, this is now tennis fixing matches. This is now soccer fixing matches. We are back to the Black Sox scandal. We're back to Pete Rose now. All of a sudden now all the sports leagues have to go and conference with themselves and saying, what have we done? We let sports betting in. The players aren't betting themselves directly, but they're aware of the lines and they're saying, I didn't harm the team. We were going to win anyways, but what's the harm if somebody made a few $100,000 on my under? This is going to be bad. And the more we're talking about this player, now we're talking about sports, and now we're back to Ohtani. What do you think?
Well, I read the story too on ESPN, and it said that he actually confirmed that he was betting on himself. That's the only thing I read. I don't remember if it was ESPN or another magazine, the sports magazine. But the thing is that he did actually say something like on those lines that he bet on himself. He
Oh,
wasn't
I didn't hear that
harming.
one. Wow.
Yeah, so I just read it yesterday too, and I knew it was a basketball player right away. He told the whole story, and like you mentioned it, regardless of you betting on another sport or your own, I mean, you dictate the game at that point, especially in basketball. Let me miss those two shots, 3 pointers. Let me shoot the. I'm gonna lay up. I'm gonna miss. I'm gonna be under 25 points today, or gonna be over. All depends on the bet that you want to do. And I mean, he crucified himself by doing that.
We are back to the Black Sox scandal. We're back to 1919, where they're saying, what did we do here? We just shaved some points. We just shaved a couple of games in a big season. What's the big deal? It didn't affect our outcomes. It didn't affect the World Series, but it affects the integrity of the game. Once you go down this slippery slope, and once you have a case where somebody has shaved some points, it could affect the outcome. It's now affecting betting. And this is no different than betting on wrestling, where you know who's going to win in WrestleMania, but they want people to bet on it. Well, if if the players going onto the field know the prop bets and realize that they can just do a little shaving here, but Karim, I don't feel sorry for professional sports at all. They knew the risk. They're big boys and big girls. They wanted to have those betting houses as sponsors on the arenas and in the stadiums. They wanted to get all the big money. You know, look at Mark Cuban. We're talking about NBA. He sold a big stake in the Dallas Mavericks. You're in Texas. Why? So he could be a part of a bigger group that's opening up a casino together with the team. So we are so knee deep in casinos. We're so knee deep now in gambling, and they got us by the kahunas. I don't see how sports teams can get out of it now, other than trying to investigate and suspend players. But I don't see them cutting off gambling anytime soon. Do you?
Not at all. It's another venue for money. So, and they're going to take the money no matter what. They're going to use their names, whatever. Like you mentioned, once you open Vegas for all major sports, it was going to be a disaster. You don't think the players are going to be betting in Las Vegas, going to the casinos and let's have a chance to make a bet right here. I mean, casinos have all kinds of cameras they can cut, but like you said, you send one of your entourage guys and say, hey, place me a couple of bets over here, and you're going to be on video, not me. Just bring me the ticket, or you go and collect. Unfortunately, that's going to happen. And if Major League doesn't put attention, or the NBA or NFL or NHL, it's going to be big problems, or they're going to have to do something on the things about putting the FBI controlling the accounts of the players and something like that.
It's like let's say you're a 14, 15-year old and you play in Mexico, you play in the Dominican Republic, you play in Venezuela, and this scout comes up to you and tells you, 14, 15-year-old, I'm going to give you the jerseys, I'm going to give you the shoes, I'm going to give you the balls and bats, I'm going to bring you on the right teams, and I'm going to expose you to all these major league teams, and I'm going to invest a lot of money in you, and I'm going to pay for your travel all over. And what will happen is once you sign a major league contract, you're going to give me 10% for the rest of your life. But without me, you're never going to see those exposures. I don't think it's far off. Once you come in with those gamblers and those mobsters and those people that they give you that money, once you're in with them, you ain't getting out so easy.
Now that you mentioned something like that, I give you all this, but when you get to the major leagues, they're going to ask you for money. I think Ellie De La Cruz signed a contract, something like that, with a sport agency in Dominican. With For the longest case in the major leagues, they're going to take 10% out of his contract. When an agent takes only like I don't know 3-4% on the major league contract, so they're taking advantage of the young guys because they don't know they need the money, but these agencies know these guys are gonna make it no matter what because of their physique, their talent, the needs of a teams. So right now they are taking advantage of a minors actually.
And in a way, gambling is taking advantage of sports leagues because they're saying, look at the allure. I will give you all this money for endorsements and I will create so much interest in your sport. And people are going to be coming and flocking to look at the TV numbers you're going to get. Imagine the NFL if there was no gambling on the NFL. The NFL ratings would be like five people would watch it. It literally is all based on gambling. People in sports pools, props, teams, you know, the NFL has been built on gambling, and all of a sudden, all these sports are seeing spikes in their TV numbers and seeing spikes in their attendance because everybody's sitting on the sports apps and doing their bets during the games. I see them, I do them, I know that, and so you can't take that away. Now you're so there. This is where now it comes full circle. What Ohtani did not need was the Porter incident to come up, and now the questioning of gambling altogether, because now we have gambling on our lips, and we're going to keep coming back to Ohtani. What Ohtani needed was no talk of gambling. Let's focus on how great opening day was. Let's focus on how great the Dodgers lineup is, and let's forget about all of this. But I don't think this Porter issue is going to go away anytime soon. I think this is going to start spreading to more of the leagues. And it's just not a good look for sports in general. And I think we have another steroid crisis on our hands. And if he's suspended for life, he's not going to be the last player. They're going to find more of these guys.
Yeah, they're probably gonna damage control right now, try to figure out what's the next move for these two individuals right now. Otani, we know that they're not gonna do anything about it because we already his interpreter said that he did the whole gambling thing. On the other hand, the basketball player, unfortunately, for the article that I read, said that he was betting on himself. You're already done. So you're already screwed. So might as well say goodbye. Exactly.
If we can take any positives out of this, Kareem, I would say it's twofold. Number one, if I am a major sports athlete and I see what happened with Otani, I will put in way more controls for my money. I'll put in way more controls of who I bring into my inner circle and what access they have. And I would be very, very smart about it. And number two, if I'm sports teams and sports leagues, I would bring in consultants. I would have them speaking to my teams on a weekly basis at least and talking to them the dangers of gambling, the dangers of point shaving, talk about the scandals, talk about how they're sacrificing their careers and livelihood, and really hit this home. And if we could take any positives, maybe we can tighten up some systems so we do not have another Otani incident, that we don't have more of these Porter incidents. And this is from education and really hammering it home through, and hopefully it comes through. But it's again, you're going to have somebody who's going to be weak, someone who's going to need the money. It's the player not making $40 million. It's the player making $400,000 and saying, you know what, I could pocket a couple 100,000 here and double my salary this year. It's very tempting.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? The interpreter for Otani was making $500,000. That was his salary. So imagine that $500,000. You have to be right next to Otani and tell him a couple of things, for the game that your manager wants to know. And the other hand is the team, his agent, the people is behind his agent, they have to manage all the stuff. Like they pay the bills. Most of agencies have someone to pay the bills for their players. So I mean, that's just difficult to completely understand this situation.
I figured he was making maybe 70, 80 US, 100 max, 500,000 to be his interpreter to basically take care of him, live his lifestyle, eat at the restaurants with him, travel the way he does. I mean, think about it, because he needs to interpret all the time, right? Another thing for Otani, for $700 million, go take some English lessons. Would have been a lot cheaper than to have this $500,000 interpreter. Let's be honest with it. You know what? For 50,000, I'll teach you English and you don't have any scandal issues whatsoever. So maybe bottom line, Mr. Otani, maybe you should have learned some more English and you wouldn't have had this issue. Come back next week as we're out of time today, Kareem. We got an exciting episode. We gone from the highs of opening day to the low of sports gambling and drama to The fans asked Karim Garcia. We're gonna have the fans write in, and they got a bunch of questions for you, and a couple have some beefs with you a little bit. You're gonna love this, so stay tuned. We'll be back next week on the Chosen Baseball Journey.